Friends, hello. Can you believe we are almost to the end of January? Time flies, as they say. Today we continue our series, Be Well Read, as together we seek better health by exploring books that encourage us to both be well and to be well read. I'm Deborah Garrard, founder and lead coach of Be Well, Serve Well, which is a nonprofit wellness initiative where we seek to help you and others heal in whatever way you might need to heal, helping you to navigate chronic pain, a recent diagnosis, perhaps a desire to lose weight, empowering your well-being through one-on-one coaching, nutritional guidance, and wellness workshops. Now, I have to ask, how are you doing with those New Year's resolutions? By now, statistics show that only 8% of those who make resolutions are still in the hunt, making them stick. Resolutions range from finding a new job, making new friends, finding love, saving money, and some combination of the ever popular eat better, eat less, exercise more, lose weight. As a pandemic lingers, it does seem to be the perfect year for at least something related to improving our health, right? Now, if you're like me, books are always a part of your New Year's resolutions and goals for the coming year. I love to read, and I'm always willing and wanting to read more. This year, you can make being well and being well read two resolutions that support each other. And so today, that's your resolution, you're in the right place. 2 weeks ago, we began the new year with the work of Dr. Joel Fuhrman, exploring his book, Eat for Life, learning the value of a nutrient-dense eating lifestyle in our resolution to gain health, to boost our immunity, wise to do in the midst of a health crisis, to increase energy, and to not only prevent disease, but to reverse disease, as we learned from the stories that Fuhrman shared, stories that put skin on the science that he offered throughout the book. In the midst of a lingering health crisis, Fuhrman's book offered good guidance, not to neglect the truth that our health is literally in our hands at least 2 or 3 times a day when we pick up our spoon or our fork. Eat for life. Today's book offers good guidance too, though it will turn our attentions toward the impact of mindfulness, forgiveness, intention, grace, gratitude, the impact of these on our holistic health, our health of mind, body, emotions, and spirit. My experience in the field of wellness has convinced me that we cannot be fully well, fully whole, without integrating all aspects of our lives. The Wisdom of Sundays, Life-Changing Insights from Super Soul Conversations by Oprah Winfrey is a beautiful book. I chose it today in particular as we're on the heels of February. It's upon us now, in hopes that you might consider this book as a gift for someone that you love on Valentine's Day, just a couple of weeks away. So let's explore the wisdom of Sundays. As the daughter of a progressive Protestant pastor, I grew up with the wisdom of Sundays. I was fortunate because Sundays were more about ritual than rules, though as a young person, I'm sure there were times when it felt more restrictive than I might have liked. The ritual was, in fact, a rhythm to our family life, and it is a rhythm that I learned in later years is less about a particular day of the week and more about the wisdom of Sabbath. Sabbath from the Hebrew word Shabbat, a rest from our labors. Whatever the day, there is wisdom for our minds, bodies, emotions, and our spirits, wisdom in rest, real rest. It's not something we're terribly adept at in our culture, and I believe that fact alone feeds our disease and our dis-ease. Early in the book, Oprah claims to know this one thing for sure, quote, "The most valuable gift you can give yourself is the time to nurture the unique spirit that is you," end quote. The wisdom of Sundays, Sabbath, whatever the day, even perhaps a Thursday. The content of the book is conversations and writings by over 70 of Oprah's guests from her popular series, Super Soul Sundays. While Oprah needs absolutely no introduction, some of the thought leaders that she includes in her conversations do. And so she includes biographical information on each one. Some names are familiar, some not so much. And yet you will find each one offers inspiring and intriguing wisdom throughout the pages of this book. This beautifully created book also is filled with breathtaking photography. Many of the images were taken on the property of Oprah's home in Santa Barbara, California. A pathway, a droplet of water, a close-up of bark on a birch tree, blossoms, bamboo reeds, a leaf buried in the sand, statuary, the shore, sunrise, snowfall. The book is crafted in a way that is worth the price for the images alone. And yet, of course, the book is also filled with the powerful words of countless seekers, poets, preachers, writers, teachers, all sharing the wisdom they have found in their own quest to nurture the unique spirit that is theirs alone, and to lean into their calling to help us nurture our spirits as well. Though the source is unknown, someone once said, Sundays should come with a pause button. I agree. This book invites the pause, the much needed pause, even and perhaps especially in our current world, where many of our usual activities have come to a crashing halt and left us wondering what, when, how, why. This book invites the pause and a mindful moment to embark on our own quest and to answer many of the questions that will no doubt linger in the wake not only of the COVID crisis, but in the wake that is decades old in our nation and in our world, a wake of disease that found us woefully ill-prepared for a pandemic. The answer can only lie in an integration of healing lessons offered by countless thought leaders engaged in conversations that seek our deepest healing. What a gift. This book is not a book written by Oprah. Though her voice is in its pages, it is a book that primarily highlights the voices of others. And as usual, I'll only share brief passages in order to whet your appetite in hopes that you will want to have this book in your own library. Early, there is the voice of Deepak Chopra describing the quadrillion atoms that have gone through our bodies and the body of every other living species on the planet in just the last 3 weeks. Wow. He points to the space between every thought we have, a space that is still presence, our soul, and invites us to get in touch with this space, this center of awareness. This center, he writes, is the ever-present ticket to our freedom. Sundays should come with a pause button. In a pandemic that has found us feeling trapped, what a gift it would be to live in a place that is our ever-present ticket to freedom, irrespective of the circumstances around us. Talk about health. Perhaps in the pause that has been the pandemic, there is the wisdom of Sundays. I believe so. I believe this pause is an invitation to rethink every aspect of our lives, including how we rest and renew, our ability to be present, and our lifestyle choices that either help or hinder our health. Michael Bernard Beckwith is the founder and spiritual director of Agape International Spiritual Center. In the pages of the Wisdom of Sundays, he suggests that when we begin to feel the spiritual dimension of our being, we bump into love. I like that phrase. We bump into love. We bump into compassion, he writes. We bump into beauty and peace and joy. Rob Bell, Ram Dass, Elizabeth Gilbert, all are in this book. Elizabeth Gilbert begins by quoting Sartre, who said, "Exits are everywhere." No surprise, Gilbert turns that on its head and proffers this: entrances are everywhere. Entrances to ourselves and our spirits that do not require the price of a plane ticket to some exotic land, but hallow the thin places in all sorts of situations that invite us to enter a place of spirit, depth, and healing. I have believed throughout this past year and now into the new year that the pandemic has offered and continues to offer such an entrance for those with current courage to see it as such and to still walk forward. There's an entrance for those willing to choose the pause that is the wisdom of Sundays. I've helped many people make their entry into healing. It is a privilege, I assure you. I also assure you it has to do with the foods that we've discussed in the books we've talked about over the past few months, but it also has to do with the ways we choose to feed and fuel and nourish our souls. The wisdom of Sundays is a banquet of nourishment. So many of the ways that we live our lives are largely unconscious, from the choices of the foods we eat, to the media we watch, to the words we say, and the activities we choose to fill our days, even in a pandemic. Intention is one of the principles that's discussed in the wisdom of Sundays, and it's a principle I teach. Be intentional. Oprah credits Gary Zukav, author of The Seat of the Soul, with inspiring her Super Soul Sunday series, and in turn, inspiring this collection of conversations from that series. Zukav wrote this of intention: intention rules every outcome. Intention he defines as the quality of consciousness we bring to a deed or our words. It's the principle that the energy we put into the world is the energy we receive from the world. One of the most powerful lessons I learned from this book came from a surprising source, surprising to me, Joel Osteen. I was somewhat surprised to see him included in this book, as I'd come to think of him as a celebrity preacher, a mega church, preaching a gospel of prosperity. Nothing wrong with all that, but I can tell you that his message in this book is spot on, as he and Oprah discuss the power of two words to begin defining who we are. The two words are simply, I am. Whatever words we choose to complete that sentence that begins, I am, begin to define us. And I've taught this to clients countless times as I help people navigate poor relationships to food and body, health and disease. We live in a culture of mixed messages, and often painful messages about ourselves. We internalize these messages, and the saboteur in our heads takes over the conversation. I am not worthy. I'm not enough. I am too fat. I am too thin. I am tired. I am weak. Osteen and Oprah rightly point out that we become what we claim, what we put into the universe and affirm to the universe. And so we are encouraged to think carefully and consciously about how we finish the sentence that begins, I am. It's long past time for us to replace the voices in our heads with voices of truth, not lies, to claim our power, our strength, our potential. Oprah calls this speaking truth to power, but not in the commonly understood sense. It's speaking truth to the power of what can be. She says this in her conversation with Osteen. When you understand that whatever follows I am is going to eventually find you, that if you start speaking all the positive aspects of yourself, I am secure, I'm valuable, I'm determined, I'm generous. When you start allowing what you want to be your truth, you begin to speak truth, the truth of I am to the power of what can be. Along similar lines, Oprah writes of ego as an imposter as she introduces the work of Eckhart Tolle. We may explore his writings in the coming months at some part in this series. Tolle has taught me so much about consciousness, conscious being that steps beyond ego into a world of true presence in the moment. As Tolle says in Talking with Oprah, the ego cannot exist in consciousness. In my work coaching people to more conscious choices related to their health, I've found it is the ego that often stands in the way. What do I want? What do I like? As Oprah points out, the ego has the power to influence or derail every aspect of our lives. Accepting this truth, she continues, opens the door to where the real work begins. Oprah includes wisdom from athletes, including Amy Purdy and Diana Nyad. Diana Nyad, author, journalist, motivational speaker, and probably most well known as a long distance swimmer, who on her 5th attempt, talked about perseverance, became the first person to swim from Cuba to Florida. Amy Purdy, who at the age of 19 lost both legs below the knee to meningitis and went on to become an award-winning para-snowboarder, winning medals in the 2014 and 2018 Paralympic competitions. Some of you may remember her best from her popular show, the popular show Dancing with the Stars. Amy, who asked herself this, if my life was a book and I was the author, how would I want this story to go? And then she went on to live the answer, writing chapter after chapter of courage, strength, and spirit. She says she wanted to see herself walk gracefully again. And so she has. Dance, too. For Arianna Huffington, self-described obsessive type A personality, it was a wake-up call of falling to the floor when she stood at her desk. She fell, excuse me, for no apparent reason, and none that MRIs, echocardiograms, and doctors upon doctors could find. Huffington says the message of her wake-up call came in countless doctors' waiting rooms where she describes as best places to ask life's big questions. Excuse me. One big question for her was, is this success? By all external signs, it was Arianna Huffington, after all. But clearly for her, it wasn't. And while doctors found nothing wrong medically, she discovered in this pause, this wisdom of Sundays, that everything was wrong with the way she was living her life and prioritizing her life. Maybe that'll help a little. Many people I encounter have to hit the floor and lie, as it was for Huffington, in a pool of their own blood, literally and or figuratively, to hit the pause button. We often ignore our bodies until they fail us, when they fail us in large part because we've ignored them. The wisdom of Sundays invites us to hit the pause button before we hit the floor, no longer ignoring our bodies, and so empowering ourselves to renewed life and health, wellness, and wholeness. The Judeo-Christian scriptures teach us that laughter is the best medicine. Oprah shares her conversation with Norman Lear, writer, producer, director, and creator of some pretty legendary and laughter-filled television shows. For Lear, laughter is prayer, gratitude, enjoyment. Laughter is praise. It bears noting that Oprah includes this conversation on laughter as praise in the section of the book on mindfulness, the wisdom of mindfulness. Might we find our way to mindful laughter? Praise. Others in the wisdom of Sundays include Rainn Wilson, who in addition to being an actor and writer is co-founder of an educational initiative in rural Haiti that empowers young at-risk women through the arts. Rain grew up as a member of the Baha'i faith, where he learned that the making of art is no different than prayer. Prayer and praise, art and laughter, the wisdom of Sundays. I've long taught a principle of wellness GPS. It goes like this. We have to be honest about where we are with our health in order to get where we want to be with our health. This is where who we say we want to be begins to align with who we choose to be in each moment. You can see how easily these sections overlap as Oprah introduces a similar GPS principle, spiritual GPS, and weaves with it intention and mindfulness. Conversations in this section include Marianne Williamson, President Jimmy Carter, the novelist Sue Monk Kidd, and Mastin Kipp, #1 best-selling author of Daily Love, Growing into Grace. Kipp describes an internal connection, the spiritual practice of listening to our intuition, a practice without which we just wither and die, to use his words. From Oprah, your life is always speaking to you. The fundamental question is, will you listen? There are countless others who share these conversations of wisdom with Oprah, including Glennon Doyle, David Brooks, Maya Angelou, Anne Lamott. You probably remember her from our series in November. Pastors, poets, authors, actors, athletes, all add their voices to encourage our pause, the wisdom of Sundays. If you ever tuned into Super Soul Sundays, you know that each episode ends with a series of big questions that Oprah asks her conversational guests. She encourages us in this book to ask these questions of ourselves too. What is the soul? What do you think is our world's greatest wound? Why are we here? Big questions indeed. And she shares a few of the answers she received. The answers are both thought-provoking and inspiring. In Mansfield Park, Jane Austen writes this: sitting with her on Sunday evening, a wet Sunday evening, the very time of all others, when if a friend is at hand, the heart must be opened and everything told. If you ever tuned in to Super Soul Sundays, you know that almost everything is told with friends at hand and hearts open. I hope your hearts are open to listen, to read this book and listen to the wisdom of Sundays, your own Shabbat, a rest from your labors, whatever your faith and whatever the day. Finding prayer and praise, finding art and laughter, finding wellness and wholeness that of necessity integrates mind, emotions, spirit in ways that powerfully impact our bodies. Deepak Chopra so rightly claims, our cells are eavesdropping on our thoughts. This is the power of thought to heal, the power of wisdom to create an internal connection that weaves our lives together with strength, intention, mindfulness, love, and connection. It's not surprising that the wisdom of Sundays culminates with a section on love and connection. I would be remiss here just a few weeks before Valentine's Day if I didn't offer at least a teaser for you to explore this section and this book for yourselves. Introducing this section, Oprah quotes Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel, also Nobel Peace Prize winner and best-selling author. Wiesel, who says, the opposite of love is not hate, it is indifference. Friends, what might we be indifferent to? My favorite passage comes as Benedictine sister Joan Chittister shares a memory from her childhood. An only child, she says she came home from school each day to her beloved companion, Billy, a little parakeet. One day she remembers, though, at the age of 12, she came home and Billy was nowhere to be found. He was gone. She and her parents looked frantically for Billy, and yet later that night, she retreated to her room, sobbing face down into her pillow so as not to wake up her parents. The next thing she knew, she felt someone beside her and then an arm on her back, her mother. The next thing she knew, she felt someone on the other side, her father. She says she learned in that moment that humanity is identifying with someone else's pain. Connection is being there, not passing by because it's not your bird, it's not your child, it's not your pain. Perhaps the greatest wisdom of Sundays for me is the inspiration I find it offers to step into each other's pain, to give ourselves to our own pause and the pause of someone nearby, and offer love and connection to help the healing begin. There is much hurting in our world that needs to be healed. It's been said that a Sunday well spent brings a week of content. I hope this time well spent, as we've come together to be well read, finds you more than content. I hope it finds you intrigued by this beautiful book, The Wisdom of Sundays. Cover to cover, it is a gift perhaps you will give to yourself, and perhaps you will give it to someone you love. If you're on the island, stop by the bookstore, pick up a copy of The Wisdom of Sundays, or visit the online bookshop. And also, I want to take a moment and encourage you, if you're struggling with a personal health concern as this pandemic lingers and this new year begins, if you struggle in relationship to food and body, health, disease, maybe struggling, suffering with a chronic condition or a recent diagnosis, even unwanted weight, please reach out to me. The folks at Story and Song know how to contact me, and it will be a privilege to help you heal, to find love and connection, and sit together with your pain. For today, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank our friends, Mark, Donna, Connor, for making this possible and bringing us together every few weeks. I look forward to sharing another book with you in early February, February 11th, just a few days before Valentine's Day. And until then, my friends, thank you for joining. Be well read, be well, serve well, and I will do the same. Thank you.